I was able to interview my uncle Albert Perry, who was a gunman in a helicopter in Vietnam. I was able to ask him questions including, so while you were deployed, what were a few of the experiences that you most vividly remember?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I first got to Vietnam, you got to maybe laugh a little bit. When we first got to Vietnam, because I went combat ready. I should have told you that. Well, some people went in civilian clothes. Yep. Carson, I went combat ready on a C-141. And we left out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. We flew from Fort Campbell, Kentucky to California. From California to Hawaii, from Hawaii to Vietnam. Mm-hmm. If I'm speaking too fast, I can slow down. And to there. But some of the experience, the thing is, when we got to Vietnam, and they dropped the big tailgate in the back, you call it,
Yeah.
And it said because 101st was in Bastogne, which my dad was in. If you watch the series, The Band of Brothers, 101st Airborne, my dad was in 5 of those campaigns.
Really?
My dad was in the 101st. He was in a glider unit, and he was a nurse and a medic.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. He was a nurse and a medic, and he treated Americans, Germans, and Italians prisoners.
Huh.
Yeah, okay. Now, when they dropped the thing, when I was saying it said, "Welcome, you bastard, to Bastogne." And they dropped that thing, and I thought, my God, am I going to have to fight my way off this plane? Because, like I said, we're in combat ready. The plane I was in, down the center of the aisles, there was like small howitzers. There were Jeeps in there and everything, We had small equipment in there, but we had it with us. And then after I was there, we went to Ban Rang for in-country jungles training, which was, because you just been there a couple of weeks, kind of scary,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, then, we went on a patrol, and how they teach you at the States here, how to look for trip guards and stuff that you might, the enemy might have to trip you or wound you or maim you,
Yeah.
Well, the surprise is, guess what? Uncle Al found a tripwire that was hooked to a detonator that if I was stepped on would have blown my foot off over my leg. So I called and they come and they disarmed it. And they took it back to the base camp. And when all that was over that day, I asked them what were they going to do that. And they said they would send it back to the States to show people what to look for. Even though it don't look like much, it would have maimed me bad.
Another memory that he was vividly able to remember was,
we had some new helicopters come in, and what the North Vietnam and Viet Cong did, they got smart. Well, they call prop watches with the helicopter with the blades coming down. They call it a prop watch because how you see the dust and stuff and people putting their hat and hold their head down.
Yeah.
Well, what they would do is the Viet Cong and the Viet got smart. They had a trip size system. You were flying your helicopter up, and they had a cable come by, and it would catch your helicopter, because I've got a couple pictures, and it would actually flip that helicopter over.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And we had one, I took a picture of it the day it come in, and 3 days later, it was totaled.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. And then, let's see what else. Oh, a couple of times when I went on recovery, and they called it a sling load, because that was part of our job too. We would go and hover, and we'd have to go down a cable or a rope, or if we got close enough, we could jump out and they'd go back up. Then we would sling load, we would take, because the enemy would definitely use anything on that helicopter. If they can use the metal, they could use especially the batteries and any fuel and stuff. They would use it, so we'd have to go in. If we could not get the helicopter out and say we took fire from somebody trying to ambush us on purpose because they know we were coming to get this helicopter, we had to blow it up. We had to blow it up.
Often, people can be blind to the atrocities that these veterans had to face. Luckily, my uncle was able to share one of these stories with me. Another question that I was able to ask my uncle was, so how did your time in Vietnam affect you after the war was over?
Oh, well, I'll tell you one thing. Couldn't get any dates. A girl found out, told her dad that I was a Vietnam veteran. No way in hell. Nope, you're not going out with no baby killer. And that's what they used to tell him. You're not going out with no baby. You don't know what he's going to do. Might have freaked out and be psychological. Well, that was bad. But I'm going to tell you one thing that really hurt me. When I got off the plane in Oakland, California, and we're the middle of the night now. I'm talking about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. There was people out there throwing eggs at me and my fellow soldiers and those blood bags, throwing them at bags and stuff at us. I remember looking at my sergeant and I told him, I said, you know, I think they took our weapons away too soon. And he looked at me and he said, you know what, I think you're right.
That's horrible.
Horrible. I never got over it. That's one of the reasons I said I'd never go to California.
Right. I know, it's interesting.
Thankfully, my uncle was able to return home from Vietnam safe and live a healthy life and start a family. But much of his story still remains untold and unknown, as many of the veterans that served and put their lives on the line for our country are just neglected at this day and age. It is important to understand these stories, as these men fought for what we all have today, which is our freedom.